What is up? Welcome back. We are in season 2 of Living Real, and oh boy, do Clara and I have an amazing show for you today. I'm so excited. I am Karissa Adkins.
I'm Clara Capano.
And we are here to help you boss up and gain clarity in your life, health, and business. So Clara, I'm really stoked today to have our conversation about healing and forgiveness. And
it's a big one.
It's huge. It is huge. But I do think before we get started, we need our cocktails from Deion.
It wouldn't be an episode without a cocktail.
Absolutely not. So Deion, what you got for us today?
Well, ladies, welcome to the new year, 2022. New year, new me. I like to start things out with a bang as always. So we're going to start out with something caffeinated. All right?
Thank you.
It's the traditional espresso martini. It got hot in 2021, and it's going to keep on rocking in this year too. So we're going to start out with an ounce of our espresso mix.
Love it. That is perfect to get the day going.
Definitely. Any of that extra, I might need a little IV drip over here.
And then I do a Demerara syrup. So Demerara is sugar in the raw. It's a little bit more healthy than the regular granulated stuff.
Well, now you're thinking about me.
I know, he's always looking out for our health. We appreciate
Always,
that.
ladies, always. And then we're going to end it with our Cowboy Country Distillery coffee liqueur. And we're just going to go with a half ounce of that guy. And of course, it wouldn't be a party without some Tito's vodka. If you're a dog person, drink Tito's.
Beautiful. I love, well, Deion's kind of making that and shaking it up. I don't know about you, but one of the things that Will and I do, you guys, that's my husband. I know we talk about our spouses, our partners, our kids all the time, but we always have a dessert drink at the end of a meal. It's something Will always does. And now I'm like, okay, so Deion, this sounds like something he would definitely want to give.
All right, so I don't know if there's a tequila song for coffee, but you know, Starbucks.
Yeah, sometimes just having that little sweetness after a meal is always good.
Yes. He has reminded me that.
Oh, those smell so good.
Well, hopefully, Deion, right, you are able to enjoy one yourself today.
Oh, I enjoyed one before the show.
Oh, good.
Got a taste test for quality, right?
And as you guys can see, we have 3 glasses today. We are excited. We have not just Clara and I talking about forgiveness and healing, but we are bringing on the amazing Sandy Spady. She was in season 1. We brought her back for season 2 because she has a powerful story that we're going to dive into. But so excited for that.
Putting a little nutmeg on there?
A little nutmeg on the top. I love aromatics. Aromatics make drinks what they are because, you know, we lead with our nose and then we drink with our mouths. Wonderful.
To pair well with a cigar.
And then we have Deion's version of the espresso martini.
Good, cheers.
Deion said, lead with the nose, then drink.
This is heaven in a glass. I feel a little bit like, is it Gollum in Lord of the Rings? My precious, my precious.
That's it. You're on point today with that. Oh, yep, this one will be gone today. Love it.
This is great.
It is so true. You know, like I love being super mindful, right? It's definitely something that I try and do. So I can appreciate when Deion said, like, lead with that nose, smell it, taste it, enjoy it. Don't feel guilty about it.
No.
Like, just do it.
Well, and I think, you know, these cocktails that he's making, it's another great reminder of life, of the beauty, of the small things, and just the artistic work that he puts into each of these drinks and how it's just those layers. And I think it's a great analogy for life because we all have those different layers and we need to really appreciate them.
That's so good.
You know, and lead with that mindset, lead with that abundance and all the beauty that we have.
I agree.
So, you know, as we're letting our cocktails kick in and get us all relaxed, we need to go into our question of the day.
Yeah.
So as you might know remember from season 1, we always have a question to kick us off. So today the question that we have, Karissa, is what do you feel is the biggest lie that women tell themselves in your industry, your specific industry that you work with?
Yeah. Great question. Okay, so if you don't know me, right, I'm a weight loss and habit change coach. So I really dive into the wellness industry, the health industry. And I think the biggest lie that women specifically are told through media, right? I remember it's all media. From birth, we are taking everything in, we are processing it, we're creating identities around it, we're creating beliefs around things. And if you can think back, and I bet you can even guess if I asked you the question, if you could think back to the very first time you saw a supermodel on a health magazine and it said, this could be you, successful, healthy, happy, right? It created a picture that in order for us to be successful and healthy, that we need to be a size 0. Right? And then when you, of course, as women, we flip to the pages and we read to it and it's like, oh, she was on this diet and she does this workout program. And it's just, we are tailored to believe that we need something, whether it's exercise equipment, like expensive equipment, trainers, or a diet in order to get healthy. And I truly believe that this is the biggest lie that we as women, we face every day, right? What success looks like, what health looks like. But yeah, quite honestly, it pisses me off because women come to me and they're like, well, I'm on a keto diet. That's what I need to be, but it's not working. And I'm like, that's because it's not for you, right? Not everyone needs to be on those diets, and you don't need a diet in order to lose weight and feel great in your body. So the media's health and industry is crazy. I think I just read the other day, it's going to be a $50 billion industry in 2022 to get people healthy. Like, it's their job to say, try this, and then just kidding, it's going to last for a little bit, and then you're going to fail, and then you're going to hop on another one, and this repeated pattern makes us feel like failures. So what about you? What's the biggest lie that you would love to?
I think it's very similar. It's interesting that in the two different industries, because I work mostly with women and helping them create their success plans, and my whole concept is let's create success on your terms. And it's because the lie that we tell ourselves is that success has to look a certain way. You have to get up at a certain time, and the way that another woman has success is exactly the way that you have to be successful. And I think that success is not one size fits all.
Yeah.
Just like health and wellness is not one size fits all.
Yeah.
You have to find the patterns that are going to work best for you, and to be able to be open to sit back sometimes and listen. I remember the concept that really got me into this was after my son was born. I was reading this book, and I can't remember what system it was, but it was, feed your child at 9, and then at 12, and then at 3, and it was doing that. And Nicholas wasn't following that. And I was stressed out because I'm like, he's not following the plan. We have a plan. On page 42 of the book, the plan says do this. And then all of a sudden when I sat back and I watched, he was following a plan. It was just his plan. And it was more like 10 and then 2 and then. So the idea is you've got to start listening to your own internal compass and find the patterns that work for you.
So I'm just going to kind of ask you a question because I'm curious about this. So what would you say, right? Tony Robbins says success leaves clues.
Yes.
So being that we're both very successful with what we do and we feel very abundant, because remember, you guys, success isn't always having $1 billion in the bank, right? Like, you can still be unhappy and be rich. But if success leaves clues, right? Finding success on your own terms, would you agree that we still need to be looking at what the majority, like what does work for the majority?
Yes.
Or no?
Absolutely, because success does leave clues. So what you want to do is you want to, for me anyway, start with the vision of who is it you want to become. And then start to identify who are some people that have stepped into that greatness, and then study them. But then after you study them, you then adapt it to your own lifestyles.
Yes.
So I have looked at successful women, also successful men. But then I find, how can I adapt this same concept into a pattern that's going to work for me? So for example, in studying successful people, I know that 98% of successful people are up at 5 a.m. For whatever reason, 5 a.m. doesn't connect with me, 5:15 does. So for me, I get up at 5:15. it's not a huge difference,
Right.
but for whatever reason, that's what my biorhythm works with. So I think you do need to study the patterns and then adapt them.
Okay, good. I was like, I think, we're like soul sisters. So I was like, I kind of feel like you had that coming. But you were going to tell me, and I would say the same thing. Be flexible with how you get there.
Yes.
But be willing to get it done.
Definitely.
Get it done.
Yeah.
All right. Well, moving into, I don't know if it was just because this is going to be a tough topic today, right?
We're going deep.
Forgiveness. Yeah.
And it's
so I was like,
important.
heavy drink, deep drink.
It's an important topic. We beat ourselves up, not just as women, but as human beings. We beat ourselves up, and we sometimes push ourselves to these standards that are so high. And we hold on to past wounds and past hurt. And so the idea of forgiveness can often be scary as well as challenging.
Yeah, for sure. So if you haven't picked up on that and you didn't read the show summary today, we're talking about how to forgive and how to heal and why, more importantly, why, right? Like, why do we need to do this? And then give you some really practical strategies that has worked for us in the past to get up, to boss up, right? And to find clarity of what you need to do. So I'm just curious, is there a moment in your time that you felt hurt? And I guess before we dive into that, I want to remind everyone who's watching that I think that's important, that trauma comes in all forms, and my trauma is going to look like different from your trauma, and we cannot judge other people's trauma according to ours, right?
Absolutely.
We could go through the exact same experience, but our healing process is going to be 100% unique, just like the flexible plan on how to get to success. So with that, can you think of a time that you have felt hurt and pain, and who you needed to forgive?
Definitely. So I would say it was my first husband. So I was married for the first time at the wonderful age of 22, which was very young. And 3 weeks after getting married, I found out that he had been cheating on me almost the entire time up until our wedding. And in fact, he was in bed with somebody on the morning of our wedding day. So I had a lot of shame because a lot of people in my inner circle did not want me to get married. So I did not want to go through the I told you so.
Yes.
I felt stupid, so I was mad at myself for not picking up on the clues that I knew. So there was just this myriad of just feeling lost and ashamed and guilty and all of these items and feeling very alone. And I did the thing that most people do where we kind of shove it down.
Sure.
And I really did not
Especially
address
women, okay? We lock it down,
We lock
right?
it
We ain't got
down.
time to feel the feelings and to
Exactly.
cry. Oh my goodness.
And so it took me many, many years. And it was probably maybe 10, 12 years later that I actually was able to get to that point. And I just remember, I don't know who it was that I was listening to, but the concept that I took away from the conversation was, when you forgive someone, it's not about them, it's about you.
Yeah.
And what I had to learn is I wasn't absolving him of all the wrongdoings that he did. I was just saying, you know what? That chapter is closed and I'm choosing to move on.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of peace that came with it. And if I saw him today, I would give him a big hug and I would welcome him with love. He has his own journey and he has his own path and his own issues for what caused him to act in those ways.
Sure.
And that was really a healing moment for me to be able to go forward.
Yeah. And
What about you?
I want to get into that, but I think with him, right, like you have a great perspective on, he wasn't trying to hurt you. Like there's not a lot, it takes a crazy man to really want to hurt somebody specifically. Like, but their intention is not to hurt you in your situation. Right. He was just doing him and dealing with his own BS.
Exactly.
And it's not nothing you can control, and more than likely it stemmed from his childhood, right? But okay, well, yeah, I think the story that I would love to maybe share today is, the one from my son's dad. So I met him at 14, and I was pregnant at 15. So sophomore in high school, and I moved in with him. My mom was against everything, of course. She was like, no. In fact, if you move in with him, Karissa, we're going to take the car away, like everything that she could threaten me with. because mamas know when they can tell, right? They got that weird sixth sense.
You're like, but I love you, Mom.
We're gonna be this perfect, happy family, and I'm gonna finish school, I'm gonna work, and we're gonna play house, right? Because what new mom doesn't want that feeling, right? We do. We want that for our kids, and so I didn't see the signs coming, if you will. You know, I didn't see anything coming until we moved in together. And then things just escalated out of control, right? It went from verbal abuse to physical abuse to sexual abuse to passing you around to my friends' abuse, like to the literally of you are nothing, Karissa, but you are my property. And that happened within a year's time, right? Like how can someone go from, you know, strong, charismatic Karissa and like me 25 years ago to broken, to worthless, to I just get up and do what I'm told. Get up, like my mindset has been programmed that way. And it really has, I've worked on that for 20 years. Like that's not something hard to like start to rewire your mindset around you being enough and you're worthy and you're deserving of love, like real love. And so I'll be honest, like, you know, I'm not going to get into the details because that's not what this is all about, but him going off to jail, let's just say that, and me starting over, right, saying, okay, this is where life is at. And it wasn't until, I want to say 7 years ago, I was at a conference, and I was at a conference with a bunch of coaches, empaths, people you cannot lie to, okay? Like people, you know, like every day, like how many times are you asked, how are you doing today, Clara?
Right.
And the easy thing is to say, oh, I'm good, girl, thanks, right? And we brush it off because we've shut those emotions down. And in my opinion, I thought I've healed, right? Like I've gotten thin, I've learned how to restructure my body, I've learned how to eat for my emotions. I'm like, I've healed. But what I realized is that I put up an ice wall and I was like, nobody's coming in. Right? And I couldn't see it at the time, but I thought that was my form of protection. It's like, nope, we don't talk about it. We don't think about it, you know, because if I think about it, I give it power and I give it energy, and I didn't want that. But one coach came up to me and he said, how you doing today? And, you know, I'm at a conference. I'm higher than a kite for like, not real, you guys, but like you're at a conference with women and 800 people and coaches. And he's like, how you doing? And I said, oh, you know, I'm fantastic. I'm doing great. And he's like, lies. And I'm like, what? And all it took was he asked by the third, how you doing? And I just melted. I lost it, right? And it was supposed to be an amazing keynote that we were going to go in to watch. And he's like, we're going outside. And I was like, no, I'm trying, like every part of me wanted to get away from this situation. So we went outside, and I remember sitting outside, and I just lost it. And I was like, I don't know who I am, like what is going on. That's the power of conferences too, right? You just feel jived up, and you just trust anyone because you're like, oh, I'm so, you know, in love with life. And it was that point where I was like, I have never healed. And then it took me 7 years, right, to heal. And now I can honestly look back and say, I am so thankful for all the crappy sandwiches I ate, right? We'll call them that. Because it built a resilient woman. It built a strong woman. Like I look, anything that I'm scared to do, I'm like, I almost killed myself back then. And I overcame abuse and self, you know, harm. And if I can get through that, I can get through anything. Right. That's how I take a look at that. I don't know. What do you?
Yeah, I just think, you know, it's such a powerful way, and you know, to think about that, and it's the reframing. You know, yeah, you went through a lot of crap, and nobody should have to go through that. No. Male, female, you know, nobody should have to go through that. But the idea is you weren't going to let that be your story anymore. And I think it takes a lot of courage to let go of that story, because even though we know the story is one of dysfunction, it's our story, and we're attached to it, and it becomes part of our identity. And if we let go of that, when you're already feeling lost and broken, when you let go of that, then you're like, well, then I have no story. Right. And a bad story could be worse than no story. So I think then we have to, again, rewrite it and then say, okay, you know, here's the pen. Let's rewrite our new chapter.
And I did. I had to sit there and think, how did this man doing this to me, what's the best, like, what can I take away from it? And now it is a part of my story, and I'm proud to tell it, and I'm proud to talk about it, where I was ashamed.
Right.
I mean, I spent that whole year and a half thinking, I can't wear, certain clothes because I was afraid someone was going to see the bruises, and then I would have to like face the whole story and the shame and the guilt of like, why are you in that situation? Like, people want to so quick to judge, and they have no idea what your story is, what your past is, but it's all about the reframe. You are right, a fresh perspective, right, on how can I learn from this?
Exactly. And that's why I am so glad that we are going to have, Sandy here with us today to be talking about how we can go deeper with this concept of acknowledging and then also going through the process of forgiving, because that is really the kindest thing that we can do for ourselves, and really understanding that forgiveness is not about the other person.
It sure as shit is not about the other person. I could care less if he's healing or moved on. I can honestly say I have, right? If I could say if I could say thank you, I would, but who knows where this guy is.
Exactly.
Like, he left my life after jail, and I remember the cop said, you will never have to probably worry about him again. And I was like, okay. I'm good with that if you're good with that.
So, good.
Goodness.
Well, we are going to be able to continue this conversation when we come back after this little break, and we are going to dive into some strategies to help us with forgiveness with our amazing guest, Sandy Spady.
365 Daily Hustle is a global health coaching company helping purpose-driven women boss up and get healthy so that they can truly show up and thrive in the world. We help women lose weight, gain energy, and feel sexy and confident in their bodies. We help women create sustainable habits that support a positive mindset, nutrition, exercise plans, stress relief, and of course, self-care. If you're tired of feeling like a failure when it comes to your weight loss and health goals, please visit our website at 365dailyhustle.com or join the Healthy Hustle Facebook community today for healthy tips, recipes, workouts, and more. What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the Living Real TV show. And we are talking with the amazing Sandy Spady. And it's kind of cool, this episode. We're coming in from all kinds of directions and places in the US. So first off, we do want to welcome you to, Living Real. This is not just your first, but your second appearance. We fell in love with you back in season 1 on a panel interview where you were talking about ways you volunteer. You were talking about, what you're passionate about. And we picked your brain on how, women can be mentoring other women and why that's so important. So yeah, I would say, let's just dive right in, because I'm so excited to be talking about the powers of healing, healing from our wounds, our past, our soul, and why it's so important to heal for us and not for anyone who may have hurt us. So we'll just kind of kick things off, Sandy, with a little bit about you. Where are you from? What's going on in your life right now?
I tell you what, I am just a small town girl, about 2000, O'Neill, Nebraska. And I've just always been in the Midwest. And I love that I grew up in a small town because it really gave me core values of just being a part of the community, which now I just appreciate because I'm still that small town girl, no matter what I do. And it's just being friendly, be approachable, and just being a part of something. And that's what I love. I'm a master networker. I actually took out 20 years and said I was a professional networker and volunteer, because you can really get a part of the community with that. And I moved quite often, and it was easy to take over a city when you just volunteer.
Yeah.
And I am working on a new book, my first book. And so that's exciting. And my whole background is PR, events, media, you name it, people, I'm there. Mom and great volunteer. That's what I do. I just,
and I love that, you're putting volunteering at the heart of everything, because when we talk about, growth, and we talk about really stepping into the best version, contribution has to be part of it. And I think it can look so different. For some people, it's writing a check because that's what works for them, which is perfectly fine. And for others, it's, again, getting the hands on. And I love that is really the center of what you do and how you called yourself a professional volunteer. And I wish more of us could do that, because it's really when we give back that we grow stronger. So thank you for all of your service and giving back.
I would agree. I can definitely relate, small town girl. I think, Claire, you're a bigger city.
Yeah, I'm a big town girl. I like the cities.
Yeah, like growing up in Grand Island, in Nebraska, in the middle of the Midwest, and then moving into Omaha. But I think what's cool is when you're in from that small town, you do get that sense of community, whether you want to or not. So some people would say small town gossip, small town drama, but I can't imagine not walking to the store and seeing someone that I know, and that just is really exciting to me. Now that drives my kids crazy. They're like, "Mom, everyone. Can't we just get through dinner without someone coming up and walking up to you?" But that makes me feel really good. And then I also want to touch on something that you said. It's the small town feel. It really makes you appreciate the people in your life. That sense of support. That if something is wrong, I can always go to my community. I can always reach out. And I love that I know you say like professional volunteer, and like this amazing woman with a big heart, but you are also a fantastic networker. Like you are a connector, girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
And
I always say that if something's going on and I'm not a part of it, or if there's something I can't connect with someone or connect someone and help them out, that's what makes me feel good. Just helping them. And you can't do that unless you're out there.
Sure. Well, and it's so true. And I think it was Zig Ziglar who said something to the effect of, if you want to get more, you have to give more, and when you focus on connecting others and serving others, and I love this idea of community. And I think whether you're in a small town or in a big town, it's that idea that we all need connection, and you can still build your own community. And so for any women out there that are feeling a little bit outside the circle, because I think as we get older, it's harder to sometimes make connections, especially if you move to a new area. Everybody else are settled in with their schools, their churches, their organizations. And so I just think, you've got to work to it. So again, going to other people who are networkers like you, joining groups, finding something you're passionate about, whether it's a hobby you have, or again, a love for helping others, animals, whatever it may be, but get that community going.
It's funny. I did a whole podcast on just volunteering. And I tell people that if you're trying to get into a certain circle and you can't get in there, find out when their festival is, find out when they need volunteers, because you got to meet people and build relationships. And then they're like, I'm going to give you a chance. And so that's so important. I do a lot of associations in different areas of Omaha, and it's just getting in there, showing that you care and putting in the time. That really works.
And as a military spouse, that's really important. I mean, I saw that firsthand, because as a small town girl, like we just dive in, and as an extrovert, we just jump in, right? So it's not an issue. But when I was stationed in Germany, I lived on a house, like a street full of housewives and stay-at-home moms. And, I was like, you guys need to get out. You guys need to go meet people, because that isolation leads to depression, leads to like loneliness, leads to poor health, like all of these triple effects, because they aren't willing to just get out and go, meet people, and whether that's confidence or something. But y'all, this is a skill that can be learned. So just like healing, right? And I know that in the first half of the show, we really talked a lot about some of, Claire and I talked a lot about some of the pain that we've gone through and how we've had to heal, and heal in a way of forgiveness, but not for others. So I am curious, like, because we're kind of on this topic of healing, healing ourselves, what are some tips or strategies you could give women on how, if they've gone through something terrible, if they've gone through a tough time, and again, it doesn't matter if it's, a situation like mine with rape and, physical abuse, or like Clara's, right? She got left, I think, at the mall, right? Or somewhere at school.
Left a few times. I wouldn't take a hint. They kept trying to get rid of me, and I keep showing up. But I mean, it could be anything. It could be losing a client. It could be a breakup. It could be, car breaking down. We all have things that happen, and we blame ourselves and we hold on to that trauma, whatever it is. So how do we start to forgive?
And this is it all, everyone has their own trauma. Some are worse, some are better. And a lot of good books are starting out with the trauma, and it just helps you heal. And I tell people every day, we all have crosses to bear, but it's how you forgive others, because you don't forgive them, you will just fester in your body, and then it hurts your soul, your outcome of life. So you have to let go of that. You don't have to forget, but you have to let go, and it's for yourself. It's for your soul. And so you can go past that. If you don't forgive, then you can't take the next level and go to the next level where you're meant to be. And
Can you dive a little deeper into that? Because I think, again, that idea of forgiveness, I think you hit on something really big, that forgiveness is really more for us than for the other person. And I think, we struggle with that, because I think sometimes we think if we forgive, that also means that we give approval to what somebody else did. But I also think sometimes that trauma becomes a part of our identity, even though we know it's negative and we know it's dysfunctional, it's who we are. So talk to me a little bit more about, what you found as far as, and what you are finding with the women and the girls that you help, diving more into how forgiveness is so important because it's more about you.
Well, you can never take the next chapter unless you finish that chapter. And so you just have to really get a good counselor. You find your support of your friends, and quiet and peace. Sometimes you just have to deal with it. Some people feel better dealing with it with groups of people. I just had to deal with it by myself, because you just have to reflect, think about it. Because if you just throw it deep down inside, you're not going to heal, because it's going to come out when you least expect it. So you just have to spend time with yourself, find your own peace, read a book, take a trip, take baths, find your friends. But a counselor, it depends on your scope of tragedy. But, sometimes you really need a counselor. You need to read books and find out, why'd you do that? So you don't do it again or make the same mistakes. And it's just really your circle of support.
I wanted to go back to, you said we've got to learn to let go, right? And everyone, that again is going to look like something different for everyone on how we can learn to let go. But as a coach, I work with a lot of women who have a lot of emotional baggage that we have to learn to let go of, just so that they can start losing weight. I mean, if we carry that identity, we carry that, like, this is who I am, I'm this victim. We have to learn to let go of that. So do you have any tips or strategies for women who are like, great, now how do I let it go, right? It's an emotion, like it's a feeling. Do you have any support for them?
I do a vision board. Honestly, I set goals, I do a vision board, and then you find out what made you before this tragedy. Who were you? And you find that person again. Was it music? Was it friends? Did you want to go traveling? You need to find the love that you had before this certain thing, person, episode happened, and find yourself again. And when you let go of the forgiveness, you have a chance to find yourself again and what you loved. And that brings me back to volunteering. What do you love? Is it people? Is it animals, dogs? You find that and you go volunteer and you be a part of that.
It's so interesting that you say that, and the idea of letting go, because I know, when I held on to some things after my first marriage dissolved, so many people were like, oh, we're seeing you come back alive again. And I hadn't realized, how my light was starting to dim. And I think that when you do let go, I love that idea of reconnecting with who you were before, because it's still in there. That joy, that beauty, that strength is still in there.
That's what's so great about kids, is that they have that glow, that joy of life. What's unexpected is great. And I always say, find that little girl again, find that little boy again, that thought life was just awesome and nothing could take you down. You find that again, and then you live.
It's great.
I like the idea when I encourage my clients to let go. I mean, obviously I'm a coach, right? I'm a certified coach that helps women get through this stuff. So it's not like I had to go through this myself, right? I've hired coaches to help heal from my past, so that I could ultimately move on and stop sabotaging my own life, my business, my own health, etc. But if you're like, okay, like, give me maybe a different type of approach, because for some, it's really hard to tap into who you were. I mean, if you've been abused your whole life, it's really hard. Like, I don't even, a lot of my clients are like, I don't even remember when I was happy the last time, or when I felt loved, or anything like that. And so I always walk them through guided meditations of literally and visualizing, them talking to, the person who caused harm or some kind of, trauma, if you will, and visualizing walking up and, and forgiving them and not even hearing what they have to say. Because we don't do that. We don't go and say, I forgive you, expecting them to say, oh, well, thank you. Like, no, like it's just straight up like how we envision, but we use all mindset work and mindset techniques so that we can learn to start to forgive. And I do this fun little thing where I make all my clients imagine like little balloons, right? That we're holding on to. And these are these past hurts that are all stuck in these balloons. And through weeks of work and through weeks of helping them, we are slowly snipping so that they can visualize that pain going away and drifting into something, a higher power, right? Because sometimes we do need to tap into our faith and say, okay, this is weighing over me and I'm ready to release it, but they have to be ready to release it. You can't just go and say, I'm cutting the strings for you, girl. Now you're free, right?
Yeah.
You have to be willing. And it's funny to hear, like, some women will go like with, because I make them obviously name the balloons and we do this whole thing, but they will save the worst one for the last. They're just so, they're like, I don't know who I am without this. And so when they're ready, I mean, it's a phenomenal, just like a thing. So if it's really hard to do on your own because you're so stuck and you're so close to the pain. But you guys, if you are really having a hard time healing, I want to encourage you to work with a professional, right? Sometimes your friends are not going to, their advice is just leave. Or, it's really hard because they don't know what you're coming from. So definitely work with a professional. Don't be afraid. I mean, I wouldn't try and fix my toilet because I know nothing about toilets. I'm going to go to a professional.
Yeah.
And
A strategy.
go ahead.
Just talking about other strategies, kind of in line with your balloon strategy. One of my coaches taught me about a release letter. So what I do is I write a letter to them, and I just like, I release you, and, just doing that. And then I burn the letter at the next full moon. So I know that can be a little woo woo, but again, it's just a symbolic thing, like the balloons of letting it go. And, Sandy, you had mentioned the analogy of, you can't go to your next chapter until you firmly close, and I love that analogy of a book, because the truth is you have to go through the chapters in order for the book to make sense. And at the same time, you are writing your own next chapter. So, knowing that you have the power, even though it's scary, even though it might be deep in there and you have to work to get it out, you do have the power to change how you see yourself, your identity, and, put it to rest.
And that's why I was going to say, when you talk about a counselor, because there's bad counselors and good counselors, I've gone through a lot, and you just have to keep on. Don't let the first one, if it's not a match for you, let that stop you. There's others, there's thousands of them. Yeah. So that's what it made me think when you said that, is that make sure that you give, if you're not comfortable, don't give up. Just find it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a doctor, same thing.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about the volunteering, because, that's something that really has helped you and you really put at the center of your world. I love the idea of volunteering. My challenge is I'm on the road so much. So it's intimidating. I feel a lot of guilt because I can't commit the way that I want to commit to something. So what would be some tips and strategies for, busy working women who want to volunteer, but maybe are a little, held back because they don't have the time commitment? What are some other things they can do?
Well, this is great because there's so many nonprofits and things that need help. If you have an hour of a day, go down to the food kitchen. If you want to volunteer at a clothing secondhand store, it's what your time commits you. But I tell people that have children or husbands that they're already both working and they can't find the time. You all sit down and you pick out, what do you like? Do you like music? Let's all help at a festival. Do you want to go help out and sell cookies? I was a troop leader. I sold cookies to my daughter. Your coach. I spent a lot of years. You have to kind of focus in on what your family would like. And there's always, even if you have an hour, that hour that you would help out someone will fill your heart for a long time.
Yeah.
It's kind of like working out. If it really means something, and once you get that high, like going to church, working out, you're like, wow, why did I miss that?
Yeah, I love that. I know I volunteer with them because everyone is begging, right? Everyone needs volunteers. And I'm just as busy as so many people, right? Like we're all busy. This is the world we're living in, unfortunately, is this sense of busyness, this on demand and hustle and grind and whatnot. But so I just pick one that obviously is near and dear, like just pick one, right? And so for me, that's Fit Girl Inc. out of Omaha, Nebraska. And yeah, I can't go once a month. I can't give my mentorship every other week with these young teens and these young girls, but I volunteer like one time a year with their fit camps, right? So I go and I run fitness, fitness classes, and I'm staying in the cabin with these girls and I'm bonding with them and I'm telling them no cell phones because we got to be mindful, and then they hate me for a little bit, but yeah, so it's like I picked just the reason why I picked that one is because I help women get fit and healthy, right? So why wouldn't I want to volunteer on the lower level with the teens, right? With the young girls trying to build confidence. So that's how I kind of go about it. I pick one and then I stick with it. Like, it's really passionate to me. And then last year I was competing for 2021 Miss Health and Fitness. And all of, like, if I had won, it was like a 20 grand payout or something. And I was going to give 10 grand to Fit Girl. I was like, this is my way to finally give back. I never have had the financial abundance to be able to do that up until this year. But yeah, so I was like, oh, if I win and I'm going to get them on board, right? Book sales, things like that. So there's so many ways that I feel like even as a busy entrepreneur, I can still give back, and it doesn't always have to be time, because they also need money, right?
They do.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Sandy, I love what you were saying about, again, bring in your family, whatever that may look like. And I know some people that they go and they make sandwiches and they just go and just deliver those to the homeless. You can go and, again, pick up trash. You can go and plant flowers and trees, so again, that I think that's really good for people to say, you don't have to do it alone. And I love, Karissa, what you're saying too, is you don't have to be 100%. It's go and be honest with them and say, this is what I have to give. And, give what you can, because every little bit helps.
Yeah, because they will always take cash. They will always take cash.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because that's one of the things that I do is, I donate all the proceeds from my book sales to St. Jude's. That's one of my charities of choice. And again, it makes me feel good. It makes me excited to sell, more of the books, but I do want to get more hands on, and that's a commitment I have made for this year. So, looking at ways I can get more hands on.
Awesome.
Sandy, what are the two or one? Because I know you're you're a professional volunteer sometimes. So what are two of your favorite organizations before we kind of close it out?
Yeah, it's easy right now. It's sex trafficking, children, women. I'm on the Coalition Human Trafficking. I love them. Rejuvenating Women Committee. We have Set Me Free. So there's a reason I keep going to women, because I think if we can work with, like you said, 8th graders, where they get so much confidence, or like even now, 4th and 5th graders, 6th graders, that they don't make the bad decisions. I mean, we're still going to make bad decisions, but if we can get them so much confidence that no one's going to touch them, that's great. It's all the broken souls that these predators go after. Right. And so that's my biggest passion. I do a lot with
and I think, again, starting, both of you have this idea of starting younger, and that's one of the reasons we started the show, is not just to help today's women, but it's to lay a foundation for tomorrow's women. And letting them know that, again, even if they're having trauma at a young age, let's get them in, let's get them with that strong mindset. And, I love what you're saying, Sandy, so that they have that confidence. It's not that they're not going to make some choices that are not always the best, because let's be honest, we still don't always make the best choices, but again, giving them the confidence so that they can see the strength in themselves. And I love that. And I think we need to do more of that at the foundational level with younger children.
Yeah. I tell dads that make their daughters princesses, spend time with them. And then I tell mothers, it's really, they need to teach their young, their young boys to be gentlemen and to respect women.
Mm-hmm. It's so important. Yeah. Wow. I mean, this has just been so amazing. And, I think that as women, we tend to, put it all on ourselves, and we always say, oh, we'll deal with that later. I've got to deal with right now. But I think we have to, remember that sometimes right now, what we have to do is focus on getting ourselves healthy. So Sandy, I guess what would be, maybe a starting point? Would you say start with getting a counselor? Would you say start with maybe being honest with yourself? What would be maybe a starting point for somebody that is ready to start healing and start pulling back the layers?
Yes. I mean, the first thing is the acceptance of the problem or the tragedy. You accept that, and then you can go on to the next, which obviously you need to find a counselor. It depends on what your tragedy level is. It might just be a circle of friends.
Right.
But then I tell people, you have to get healthy. Like if you're not strong to fight the fight or to get over something, invest your time in you again. You get you back. So let's work out. Let's join a gym. Let's start walking. Let's find that health, because when you are, as Karissa knows, when you're healthy, everything else, you have the energy to battle the next battle or to be the best person you're going to be. So it's just being healthy, find a counselor, find your friends, and then find what you love and find yourself again.
Yeah.
So important.
Yeah. And I think also just being willing to be honest with your story, and just, coming full circle. So Sandy, thank you so much. You really just, opened up, I know, my eyes to so many different thought processes. And I know that our viewers are going to find so much value in your words. And I think it's going to really touch to inspire others to start with themselves, to get themselves on the right track, but then also the idea of giving back. So for all of you out there that are watching today, thank you so much for joining us on Living Real. We just wish you so much love and abundance as you go out there into your world, and we inspire you to show up every day as the best version of yourself. And remember, you can catch all of our episodes on our website, Living Real TV, and we look forward to catching you on our next season, our next episodes, and just have a wonderful day.